have everybody with us today. And I think the best way to start would be with a little bit of music that both of these artists have agreed to share with us. First, I'm going to request the admin to play the most famous song from the Jungle Book, which I'm sure we've all heard before, which Amol sang when he was 9. And once we listen to that, we can come right back.
Sure, Ashish sir, can we play the first video?
Have everybody the most famous song from the Jungle Book, which I'm sure we've all heard before, which Amol sang when he was 9. Have everybody the most. All right, maybe we'll give them a minute to sort that out. In the meanwhile, Amol, it would be really nice for you to kind of unmute yourself for a second and tell us kind of the feeling. I don't know how many years it's been since you sung that song, but it still probably brings back some amazing memories for you, right?
Yeah. So hi everybody, this is Amol, and thank you, Bindu. So it has been a really long time since I sang the song. I was 9 years old at that point in time, and I was pretty young. I was in the school, and actually sang it as a poem only, and I was not knowing that it's going to become such a big hit. So the music was given by Vishal Bhardwaj, whom we all know very well. It was his first. It was his debut as well on television as well as in films, and the lyrics were by Gulzar. And after some audition, I got selected, and finally I sang the song and sang it like a poem. And they all encouraged me very well to sing the song. And after a couple of weeks, I came to know that it has become a big hit now. So I became a very famous child artist at that point in time in 1991, 1992, and then sang in many more TV serials also. But the biggest hit was this one only. So other programs also I sang. Then I went into a lot of reality shows on television, and it's a part of my life actually. I keep doing music along with my work as well. So that's been the story so far in very short terms. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is the video ready to play now? Do you think we'd be able to hear the song?
Shows on television, and
जंगल जंगल बात चली है पता चला है जंगल जंगल बात चली है पता चला है अरे चड्डी पहन के फूल खिला है फूल खिला है
Oh, that was lovely. I'm so glad we got to listen to that here. So Ambi also comes from a background where he has been learning music since he was 3. And I think all of us agree that as young as possible is a great age to start music. So Ambi, tell us a little bit about your foray into music, and then I'm going to request the admin to play a short clip of yours as well.
Yeah, sure. Firstly, I'd like to thank IMA for doing this. We've been a part of YLC for quite a while, and it's a wonderful platform. Well, I started learning the violin when I was 3 from my father, Dr. Subramaniam. And I think at that age, you don't really know what you're doing. You kind of do it because it's fun. And I think that was very critical. I think when you're learning at any age, but especially when you're young, it's important that the first few experiences that you have are very positive. So I can say that it was very positive for me. So I was probably playing garbage, but I think that environment was really nice where my father would be playing and then there would be amazing musicians around. Of course, you were singing, my brother also was learning music. So it was a nice atmosphere to kind of just be immersive. So I think I would essentially take a small violin and try to imitate what was going on. And then over the years, it became a little more formalized. And then I think official classes started much later. But by then, the love had already developed.
Yeah. I love that. Obviously, I've heard it before because we're siblings, but I think it's always something nice to share. Would we be able to play the clip that Ambi has as well? While we're waiting for that, I think maybe it would be interesting to bring up a commonality that both Amol and Ambi have, and that they were discussing earlier, which I think is very relevant given the context of IMA, the YLC, and the fact that many of the young leaders here are kind of looking at how they can find pathways into arts and culture. Both of you have degrees in music. I know, Amol, you have an MA in music. Ambi, you have a PhD in music, but both of you have also pursued different careers and done educational degrees which are outside of the musical domain as well, right? Amol, you have an MBA. Ambi, you have an MBA as well. So tell me what it has been like for both of you, and maybe Amol can answer first, and then Ambi, about this ability to balance the need for a formal education as well as this desire to do art.
Yeah, so it's a very, very valid question, and most of the youngsters these days have the same confusion in their mind, who all are talented, whether they should focus on the talent alone or they should focus on the studies. I also come from a very, very musical family. I have also learned music from my father, and and incidentally, I was very good in studies as well when I was a child, and also while growing up. Uh, my dad and my family, I mean, they all are into studies. My father went to IIT, and he was also a musician. So we all had that balance in our mind that you should focus on music also, and as well as you should focus on your studies, so that you always have a backup. So if you are a well educated musician, then you command that more respect in the market as well. You can have the balance, and if you want to make music as a hobby also later on, and focus on your studies or maybe on a professional career in terms of management or engineering, then music will always give you a way to vent out your frustrations. It will give you more balance in your life. It will make you more peaceful. So in that sense, music helps you a lot. So if you have a hobby, or maybe if you're an artist, if you paint and you also do some professional work, so it will make you much more balanced than the other people in the market who are just doing their own professional work. So it will make you a much more mature, balanced, and stress-free personality. So that is what I have found. And then maybe after you work for a few years, like I have worked for many years, and if you want to make up an alternate career out of music also, you can very well do that. So you always have a backup, and you are very well placed than the other people.
Lovely, thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting to note have a second career that you're running simultaneously, and maybe we'll come back into that in a little bit. But Ambi, would you like to answer the same question as well?
Yeah, sure. I think it's very interesting because I think both of us are coming from slightly different perspectives. I think in my case, I was always sure that I wanted to be a musician. So even from the time I kind of started, probably when I was about 13, I decided that, okay, I want to be a musician for the rest of my life. So what my father always said, I mean, he made all of us do master degrees and then we did our PhDs and all of that. But for me, it was interesting to do an MBA because it gave me a completely different perspective. And I would say that really helped my musical career. So I think for a lot of people, sometimes we look at art as something to supplement what you're doing in other parts of your education. But in my case, I found that doing an MBA really helped my music career, and it really helped us when we started SaPa and when we started our music academy teaching kids, because it made me think in a more structured manner, and it made me think in a totally different way than you would as just an artist.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I hear from the admin that we now have that video of yours to play. If we can listen to that, and then we'll come back to some more discussions. And if anyone has some questions that they'd like answered, please share them in the chats, and we'd be really... So that was a fun song. Ambi, do you want to just tell the gathering here the idea behind the song and what the musical expression was about for you?
Sure. So this is actually a song that Bindu and I did together with some fabulous other artists as well. So the idea was when we were working with a lot of kids, so we went into all these different schools where we were teaching our SaPa in Schools program, and we wanted to create a piece with kids. And we created this campaign called the 10,000 Deeds campaign, which we did with UNICEF. The idea was that every child can make a difference doing his or her small deed. So, and when you add these drops in an ocean, you get some amazing results. So we went to a lot of different schools, and we did this 10,000 Deeds campaign. And what is interesting now is it's been picked up by the UN to launch the 100,000 Deeds campaign worldwide. So that's quite interesting from our point of view. And the idea is to kind of start with one small deed, and you kind of see how momentum kind of takes it forward, and you see some really cool things happening.
Yeah, and how music can be so much more powerful than just a song or just a melody when people come together and see the value in doing something powerful around music. We have a very interesting question from Sushmita, which I'm going to request both the panelists to answer. How is the music school industry doing in India, especially the ones for very young kids? How young or old should the child be to start? Amol, I'm going to request you to respond first, and then Ambi, if you would like to as well.
So in terms of how young a child can start, I mean, 3 to 4 years is the time when the child can actually start understanding what is music. And but the ideal age for a professionally learning music, I would like to say, would be around 6 years, because that is the time when a child can actually start reading the notations, what is given to him. He can understand a bit of Hindi or maybe in English. So 6 years, I think, would be the ideal time. And before that, the child can actually sing, listen to music, and not learn it professionally, but actually enjoy music, what it is, understand it. But as far as I recommend the students to start off at around the age of 6 years. And how the music industry is doing right now in terms of teaching kids, I think it's one of the most fantastic fields to get into, because every parent these days wants their child not only to be a maybe a bookworm, but maybe a sports person, or maybe a musician, or maybe an artist. There is complete flexibility now in terms of children choosing their own field and deciding what do they want to do in life. Uh, and one more very important thing, the new education policy that has come in just a month back, wherein a child in the class 6 can actually decide which field does he want to get into. So all these things will actually help uh, uh, I mean, inspire students also, and take the music industry to new heights in terms of teaching students. So that is what is my view here. Yeah, I'll leave it to Bindu and Ambi to answer now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, for us in SaPa, we have a lot of programs. Generally, I think 3 years of age is a good age to start learning music. We do also have some, parent toddler programs where the idea is to create exposure from a very young age, because
and an atmosphere where even babies can love music.
Yeah, because a lot of times there is this question about nature versus nurture, and whether you have to be from a classical music family or any musical family. But I think the biggest issue sometimes is access and exposure at a very young age. So the thing is, in a lot of ways, we were lucky because we had a lot of exposure to great music when we were very, very young. And I think that makes a massive difference. So we've been working a lot at SaPa, and it's really been heartening to see, when you work with kids at age 3, you can't tell who's from a musical family, who's not from a musical family, uh, any of that. And the thing is, when you see them coming in at age 10 or age 12 or age 14, then it's very clear who has had that kind of music exposure growing up and who hasn't. So I think starting very early is very important, and it doesn't have to be a very, very formal way of learning. So it doesn't have to be a situation where they're sitting in front of the guru and learning, because as a 3, 4, 5-year-old, that's not going to happen. And that's not the most effective way to make that happen either. So a lot of times, if kids are having fun, they may learn in ways that we don't learn. Sometimes you see them having fun, looking around, which is why also it's very important, I think, to have that community when you're very young. So when you have 3, 4, 5-year-olds, when they're learning with their friends, a lot of it is also listening to their friends. Sometimes the teacher will say something to your friend that is relevant to you as well. And then that is also much more effective than making them sit seriously and say, okay, now sit properly and don't move and sing properly. So I think that's very important. Well, I think the first part of the question, I would say Bindu is probably more, she's more equipped to answer this. So I will actually ask her to answer that.
Well, I think what Ambi and I have been trying to do for the past many years now is introduce music to children at a very early age to, as Ambi said, create a love for music, but also so much of brain development is supported by using music, because babies at very young ages learn by auditory and tactile methods. In fact, their hearing comes in even before their sight functions very well. When a baby is really small, he can only see 50 centimeters away, but from the time he's in utero, he's able to identify the sound of his mother's voice. He's able to identify different people's voice. He or she is able to recognize music. So when we start using music as a tool to aid brain development, and we start seeing very real results in very small children as well. And even when you look at kind of learning language, there is so much benefit for young children learning to sing in different languages, because the way the neural pathways are formed, that if we don't start, we're born with so many different connections happening in the brain. And if we don't use them, we start losing those pathways. I mean, there's research that suggests we start losing the ability to learn language from the time we're 6 years of age, which means that 0 to 6 age category is so important. But there are also studies that show that if you learn how to sing in a language, even if you're not fluently speaking it at that age, you retain some of the benefits if you want to learn that language later in life. And I think it's so interesting to see how even very young children can embrace music in a positive way, and how if we create a situation where children love music, we're also creating a situation where they can learn so many things through music. And as far as the music industry is going, I think all industries are in an interesting place right now. Everybody has been kind of forced to pivot. Everybody has been put in a situation where they have to reevaluate what they were doing and how they were doing it. I know in our own case with SaPa, in 2 or 3 days, we had to bring 30,000 children who were learning face-to-face online. I know, Amol, you had similar situation where you were kind of bringing your in-person classes online. So I think there is a lot of challenges that people are facing, but it's been a great opportunity also for people to learn.
I think also from an online perspective, and I think this is similar in every field, it took a little while getting used to, not only for us as teachers, but also for students, and also it does take a lot of planning, and it does take a lot of thought to kind of keep improving the experience. So online education is not the same as in-person education, and I think as educators we can't try to just recreate the same process, because that will always be not as effective as in person. But what we have tried to do is to try to use some cool online features and things that may not be available if you're sitting in person. So the idea is to kind of use the skills and use the resources that you have with online tech and create an experience that is fulfilling for both the teacher and the student.
Yeah, we have another interesting question from VN Money saying, what aptitude may be identified at a young age for kids to start learning music? All young children, including infants, enjoy music, but what skills may be identified to enable a parent to make his child pursue music and later for a career? It's a very interesting question. Again, Amol, I'll request you to kind of jump in first.
Yeah, so this is a pretty interesting and a difficult question also. So what I look and what I mean, a couple of teachers who work along with me, is that the basics, what we look in a child to identify whether he has a talent to pursue it or not would be, first of all, check whether he's actually in rhythm or no. So rhythm is the most important thing in music. So if he understands the music, understands the tal, and picks the song at the correct speed, so that is the first thing that any musician should have. You can work on the scale, you can work on the notation, you can work on the sur, but being in tal and being in rhythm is the most important thing that we see. So if a child actually understands rhythm, I think he has a bit of skill to actually inculcate music in it, and then you have to maybe take him to a professional teacher who can identify what are his skills, whether he can be a good vocalist, or maybe he has a talent to play some instrument in terms of rhythm, or maybe piano or something like that. So that is how we identify the talent, and give him some exposure, make him to sing, give him some exposure on the stage or something like that. Then you can actually identify whether he is interested or not.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you for your perspective. Ambi, what do you?
Yeah, I think a couple of there are a couple of factors here. I think the most important thing is exposure again, because sometimes it's difficult to say right off the bat that okay, this child is amazing, or this child will never become a musician, or this child because also, I mean, within music there are so many sub things. Maybe the child will be an amazing singer, or maybe the child, when you take him to a singer, a vocal teacher, he may not enjoy vocal music, but he may become a great flute player, or he may be a great tabla player. So sometimes it's difficult to kind of say that, but I think it's very important to give them access. So a lot of times it's about exposing kids to as many different types of music, as many different instruments as possible. So then slowly over a period of time, you see a little bit of them developing affinity for something. So we have a lot of cases sometimes where they may be having attending vocal class for 3 months, but then a parent will say, but every time the tabla is on, my child really goes into a different state, or every time he hears a violin, he starts smiling. So sometimes it's very interesting to see that, because if you were to look at it from a traditional point of view, okay, fine, he's gone for vocal class, and sometimes it's really funny, because we do get certain situations where I remember one parent asked me, the child was 4 years old, okay, my child has been learning for 3 months. Is she talented? Should she continue this, or is it a waste? So I think sometimes it's nice to kind of let the kid go through the process, enjoy, as long as he or she is enjoying what they're doing. Sometimes also that spark that you look for may come a little later. So we have had instances where certain kids uh, may have difficulty matching pitch initially, maybe in the first 6 months, sometimes even the first year. Uh, but then now a lot of those kids are some of our best performing kids in SaPa because of that, that interest and that methodical working. So I think it's important also at that age not to look for these signs of your kid being a prodigy, but also saying, okay, fine, if he enjoys music every day, 15 minutes, I will sit with my child and we will do music together. So I think it's more also about a little bit of consistency than saying that, okay, he's at the moment he opens his mouth, he needs to sound um, like he's a musical genius.
And I think it's important not to write it off too early, but also inculcate an atmosphere where the kid enjoys music. Because with any skill, whether it's music or math or science or painting, improvement comes from just consistently working at it. So if a child has a passion for music, then it's really important to support that, even if you're not able to see the child's inherent genius at that point. I think learning music is something that should be supported if a child is interested, no matter what. Having a career in music is contingent on so many factors beyond a person's musical ability, and that's the reality. I mean, you can be the most talented musician and you may not be the most popular one, or you could be an average musician and you could be extremely popular. So it's not really in anybody's control to decide whether the right path is a career in music, but having access to the right skills to learn music is very important, and having a supportive ecosystem around.
And maybe I'll just answer this. Access to string wind percussion is not very easy in schools, but I think a good place to start off would be even YouTube, where they're listening to all these different things. Because a lot of times I've seen that with my father as well, where some people would come after the concert, or you'll get these messages on Facebook saying that, my 2-year-old, every time he cries if I play your music, he stops crying, or he starts smiling, or things like that. So then you know that, okay, maybe this child has an affinity to this type of music or this type of instrument, and then you can try exploring more there. But I think even YouTube is a great place to start, where we're consciously trying to make sure that they're listening to many different styles of things. So whether it's classical or Western, classical, pop, Bollywood, anything, I think it's important that they listen to a whole wide range of things, so they will find things that they like.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen instances of how kids get really excited about do-it-yourself instruments and simple things. So one is you're listening on YouTube to all these great instruments, but you can even make a basic percussion instrument, a shaker, out of an empty plastic bottle and and you can give kids access to so many different things without having a lot of facilities. And I think it just requires a little bit of creativity. Amol, do you have anything to add to this point of access to string, wind, and percussion is not very easy in schools? So how do parents expose children?
Yeah, so I agree with what you both have told, that YouTube is a good medium actually to learn music. And if all these instruments are not very readily available, then you can maybe use YouTube as a medium. For the people who are in Delhi, I know a school here called Delhi School of Music, where I am also associated with. And there actually you have classes, they give classes for all the wind instruments, percussion instruments also. which are not easily available in the market. I mean, you will not get such classes anywhere else. So Delhi School of Music is a very nice place wherein small kids also can join. And in fact, elder people, like I have seen a lot of elders also are around the age of 50 years who can start learning music there. And all the instruments that are not taught very readily in the market can be learnt there. So that is one of the schools where people from Delhi can go and start learning.
Lovely. I see another question that's kind of related from Dr. Mukul Jain, who says, what are your views regarding learning musical instruments and rhythm, sur, and other nuances when you're 48 years old and you love to sing and have a knack for music?
Well, I think it's always a great thing to do if you enjoy the art. And I think as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, that's all that matters. I think I personally am a musician because I enjoy doing music. And just one thing I would probably say, I think when you start, probably you had years and years of listening, so your ear may be very tuned to a lot of to a lot of things, but probably it may take a little bit longer to execute what you have in your mind. So all that I would say is maybe be patient a little bit with your voice, because sometimes you may have a lot of ideas in your head because of all of the things that you've listened to, and you may have a refined ear. But so it may take time for your voice to kind of match your ear training. So as long as you're patient with that process, I think it doesn't matter at what age you're starting.
I think there's so many benefits from learning music at any age. I know there have been studies about how even in senior citizens, learning music has helped with the brain in so many ways. And so, if you're interested in learning music, or you know somebody who's learning music at an older age, I think that's a brilliant thing. Amol, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I mean, you just touched the point of music as a therapy. So I've seen at a lot of places these days that the old people take music as a therapy. Drama is also used as a therapy now. So if you have any kind of old age issues in terms of your mental issues and all, in terms of depression, so music is a very, very important tool to actually get over all these medical problems also. So it is always great that whatever is your age, you should do music, and basically music has no age. So at any point in time, whenever you decide and you have the inclination towards it, you can actually start it off. The biggest example is our playback singers also, like Lata Mangeshkar, Asa Bhosle. They all are still singing, and they are all are above the age of 70 years. So that is a very, very big example that music has no age whatsoever.
Lovely. And you touched upon the new National Education Policy report as well, which is something that most of us culture bearers find extremely exciting. We touched upon it during our conversation with Sanjay Roy a couple of weeks ago. And we were fortunate on behalf of SaPa and with our father to consult with the Planning Commission for that report with Dr. Kasturi Rangan and others. And what I really like about the new National Education Policy report is the desire to integrate arts at all levels, where they see the importance of art even in the life of a 3-year-old, where music is a powerful tool for music to be, for any subject to be taught, all the way up to, as you rightly pointed out, Amol, higher ages where music can be taken as a more serious track, and kind of this dismantling of the idea of curricular and co-curricular, where certain subjects are more important and certain are just kind of fun subjects which may or may not contribute to real outcomes in the real world. So it's definitely something that I think all of us can look forward to. I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I have a last question for both of you. And I do see one more question. What is the USP of your school? And since we have different schools here, I'm going to allow both of you to answer separately. Amol first, please.
No, so I have I don't run a very big school like what Bindu and Ambi run. So we have a small setup, and uh, a few students come to me to learn, and from my father also. And we have got a very traditional setup. It was a Guru Shishya setup kind of a thing till Feb this year, but now it has gone completely online. And the advantage of our school now is that we are geographically spread. We use Zoom as a medium. So now we have students also from US and UK who join in early in the morning, and we teach them also. Uh, the exact USP of my school would be that we teach in. We are not teachers who actually teach absolutely in Hindi. Uh, we teach you in English also. So a lot of small kids who come to us, we have actually translated all the Hindi ragas and all into English and made it very, very interactive for the kids. So kids also really enjoy it. And then we have students who are above the age of 50 years also, who also come and learn. And we are also working on a book these days on which would be completely on Indian music, but in English language. I don't think there are many such books in the market which are which are raga based and which are actually using English as a medium to teach. So we are working on a book also. So that is going to be released very soon.
That's really exciting. Ambi?
Well, I would actually again ask Bindu probably to answer because
I'm the moderator today, so please.
So normally these are things that I would ask Bindu to answer. But yeah, actually, do you want to?
Okay, yeah, sure. For us, the USP has always been making classical music accessible to all children, to kind of break down this idea that you need to be from a family of musicians to be able to appreciate music first and foremost. And secondly, to promote a lot of interdisciplinarity between different styles of music. So you can be a Carnatic violinist, but you could also play Western classical piano and do songwriting and learn a little bit of drums. So we look a lot at kind of respecting and holding on to traditions and using Indian classical music fundamentally as a base to strengthen music ability, but also as a style that can communicate very well with other global styles of music, whether it's African drumming, or Latin American scales or anything like that. And we've really worked very hard on creating a methodology which supports very young children's musical aspirations. So we work with a lot of kids, and even though we work with adults and older people as well, we feel that the primary foundational years are really critical. And my last question for both of you today is, how do you see things moving forward post-pandemic? We don't know, obviously you may still be online for a year or a year and a half because we don't know when things will get back to pre-pandemic stages. But do you think that the shift is something that would be permanent for you, or do you see a different way forward afterwards?
As far as I am concerned, I firmly believe that we are social animals, so we can't keep kids restricted to our respective houses, and we also have to go out and meet people. So going forward, once the vaccine comes, maybe it comes in 6 months or maybe the next 1 year, it's going to be blended learning. So it's going to be a mixture of online as well as offline. It is not going to be completely offline because now we have seen the advantage of online teaching. The biggest advantage that I see of online tutors and educators and children also is that the parents can monitor what is happening in the class. Earlier we were not knowing what our kids is doing when he goes to a class, but now whenever a kid actually attend an online class, the parents can monitor it. So that is the biggest advantage that I see in terms of online learning. And yes, but offline is very, very important because I told you we are social animals, so we have to meet people. And especially when you talk about art, there has to be a personal connect. You can't learn actually music by just on the online path. You need a physical teacher also with you. So it's going to be blended learning. The old days are never going to come back now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in that respect. I think blended learning is the way forward, and I think in a lot of ways, uh, yes, I mean, not being in front of your student or not being in front of your teacher can sometimes be a bit of an issue, but you also have access to so many amazing things now that maybe we didn't really focus on before. So now, if you want to learn something from somebody from any part of the world, the access is so much more. And I think it's interesting that also musicians from all over the world are making these courses. They're uh, making it easy for people to have access to their learnings. So I think that is something that we will benefit a lot in the long run. But I think blended learning is probably the way forward, even on the performance side. As musicians, I think initially, I mean, still there are really no concerts to speak of where you're going and performing in front of people. But to some extent, there have been these online concerts and all of that. Where again, I would say that the experience is interesting and different. Again, you can't really try to recreate the feeling that you have on stage, where you're in front of an audience. You have the speakers and the general ambience of the stage. But it is interesting when you're playing. Sometimes when you're playing in front of a laptop and you can see what people are saying immediately, you have that that connect, and people feel a little closer to you in some respects, because they feel that they are also kind of participating in the performance. So I don't see that going away entirely when concerts come back as well. So I think you will also have those set of performances, maybe a little less in number, but you will probably also have those going forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amol, for your inputs and sharing your wealth of wisdom with us. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to add one more thing. So if you can see on the screen, there is my son also there on the call. So in the morning, he was there with me. So I taught him music personally. But now he has gone to his grandparents' place and we did a class on Zoom today. So that's how it's going to change now.
Perfect.
So and he also wanted to attend this, so he's watching it live. So that's
Lovely.
how things are going to change now. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So thank you so much, Amol, for your time and your insights. It's been a pleasure discussing with you. Thank you, Ambi, for your inputs to this panel. I must, of course, thank Rajni, who's the one behind everything
Absolutely.
that happens at YLC and is the greatest inspiration here. Thank you, everyone who took the time out to attend, everybody who supports IMA YLC events, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ambi, Amol, Bindu. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
doing
Thank you.
this. Thank you. Take care.